Hey guys, how you doing? It's Tommy Desmond here, and I just wanted to put a real quick video together to go over something that I've had a couple people ask me about recently. One of the biggest tools that we obviously have is the MLS, and this video is going to require that you have access to it. But if you are an investor who's got access to the MLS, this is a really, really good way for you to start using it maybe in a way that you haven't before. That's could be a little bit more efficient. I'm using REALCOMP, and it's going to vary if you're on RealSource or one of the other MLSs across the country. But for us, we're using the RCO3 online portal now, and it's a pretty powerful engine, and it's a major upgrade from the older version of RealComp, which I didn't use all that much because I hated it. But the new version got a lot more tools at your disposal now. There's two things that I'll go over in these videos, but I'll break them up. So on this particular video, one of the things I'll go up with is one of the things that I'll go over here is custom displays. So if we, for example, if we take a city that we're searching in traditionally, like we'll just pull up a whole city, and I'm only interested in the stuff that is active at the moment. We'll throw solds on there over the last 90 days as well. So if we just pull up everything that's sold in Southfield over the last 90 days. Now, normally what you get when you land on this is this is the default display, the single line display, and it's giving you the property, the MLS number, some pricing information, days on market, size, and all this links to different data. And that's great, and you can make adjustments to how many it's showing on each page if you've got a lot to go through, and that's all wonderful stuff. However, for investors, that might not necessarily give us all the information that we're particularly interested in. So I've made a couple additional, and a lot of people don't realize you can make additional display types. Now, this is pretty powerful thing here, and I've created a bunch of different kinds. So one of them, I've got a handful of square foot investment versions. So what this does is it gives me the same basic info, but it also does a handful of other things that are going to be more relevant to me as an investor. It gives me price per square foot numbers, in addition to my days on market and everything else. I don't really need links to all the rest of that stuff, the public record and whatever. If there's something in specific that I'm interested in, when I click on the MLS number, I can still get all that info. But just having this quick access to seeing some numbers that make more sense to us, it's kind of a big deal. In addition to that, you can throw a handful of other things on it. Whether different financing types, what it's got as far as foundation, does it have a garage, and some of these, this column's empty. That's because these are active properties. If we scroll down, switch it to 100, and we'll go further out, and now we're getting into sold properties. So on the sold properties, it's giving us off-market dates too, so we could see how close that is to our timeline now, because obviously last March is a little bit different than the middle of the fall, and market prices could be different, and you want to have that tighter timeline in order to get some accuracy, especially if you're trying to calculate an ARV or what kind of activity an area is getting. So I actually have a couple different investment polls here. My second investment poll has a little bit more data in relation to the actual, because there's some of these prices are tricky. List price could show up list price, doesn't necessarily mean that's the close price you're going to get. So my previous investment poll for the same street on Everett, it's giving me a list price of 150, didn't actually give me any close price information, whereas my second investment style gives me that. So I've got list price 150, close price 143, and that closed September 9th. It's on a slab, and we can even go further. It tells us ownership types over here, so I know whether or not these are REO, government-owned, corporate relos, or what, because obviously it's going to affect the nature of the negotiation when you're trying to get the property. So we'll tighten it up to a little bit of a smaller city here, just so we don't have so much data pull out and go looking through. So all right, here this is so here you can see the difference between an active poll So we've got everything here that's active on the market at the moment in this city, and this is everything that's sold over the last 90 days in the city, and it gives us a real good quick analysis of what we're looking at versus what we're looking at for what's sold versus what is currently available, so we can make those comparisons relatively quickly. So all right, going through this, also we can sort by any of these. So if we want to pull up all the recent solds and we want to do it by a price per square foot number, so we know at our highest, which coincidentally was one of my flips, I really didn't set it up to be that way, but this is one of the properties that we rehabbed, so we know, I especially know if I'm working in this area again, that we can get $194 a square foot as a closed price, and we can also see our days on market times being relatively tight over here. So when we flip that back around, I go back to my criteria, I can eliminate my solds, and I can just go for what's currently available. I'll switch back to my first. It gives me, all right, here are my price per square foot numbers, so I can see if any of that makes sense. And you can kind of narrow in on one. So we got one right here that's at 119. So what does that do for us? We can go in, we can do our analysis the way we normally would do our analysis, and it gets us a little bit tighter to the pocket right away. So at least we can tell relatively rapidly in a pool of lots of properties that, hey, this looks like it's already starting to make sense for our numbers based on what we've already seen. So how do we do this? That's the question. So it's actually really easy. There's first off, to set one up, you have to go into My RCO and Settings, and that will bring you to all of your custom setups here. And we've got custom displays and custom exports. Custom exports I'll talk about in the next video, but custom displays, this is basically where we can make all of these. So now up here you've got all the different variations of when this is going to show up, whether it's going to show up with the commercial search, the vacant land search, the multifamily search, public record search, whatever. It's also a really good opportunity in the public record search to do some data extractions for hunting down people, for doing I don't want to call it skip tracing, but for hunting owners and things like that, finding other investors, finding financing, different financing types, things like that. So I'll leave it on residential, and you can add, edit, or copy. I will make a brand new one, and basically when you open this up, you give it a name. I'll just call this one test, and you can go through all of this different information. I mean, a lot of people think that the information that you see when the initial search is done is all the information RealComp's got. That's not accurate. There is tons of data, and basically from each one of these, like if I just want to do one for land contracts, then I will just pull all the land contract information, and you still have to put some additional stuff in here. Like you definitely want the MLS number, and you want the link to full, because that lets you click on it. If you don't have link to full, what happens is it just shows up with the data, the MLS number, and you have to actually copy that manually and paste it into the search bar to search for each one, and that's not cool. So we don't do that. We make link to full, so everything's clickable. And let's see, I always put list price per square foot in, just because that's always a useful thing to have. And then we'll just put the address in there so we know. Address and city. And then you probably want the days on market too. Okay, so now as far as all this width is concerned, don't really worry about that. This print layout, if you want to do wrapped, what that will do, I'll show you in a minute. We'll make it multi-line, and I'll show you what I mean by multi-line. So alright, now we'll just go for active properties in the city of Southfield. Right, and then we'll go to our results. So now over here it's going to show up under your list of different display types as land contracts. So these are all of those properties as indicated on the data that we are interested in. I should have moved this address over to here and whatever. You can actually do that manually after the fact, and that will readjust the display. So after that, then it'll always show up that way. That's useful. So yeah. Now all of these are not land contracts. So this is kind of a random pull here. But I just clean it up, make it a little nice. But you have a couple. Here you got one that's a land contract, another that's a land contract. So all the data that won't exist, since none of these have land contracts, it just will show up as blank. But it does give you the ability to see really quickly, all right, which ones do. So and if you click any of these headers twice, it will flip the stacking order. So if we start it, if we the first time you click this, everything shows up no. It's sorting them by the fact that it's no. You click it again, it'll sort them by the fact that it's yes, and obviously that'll be the same thing with numbers. It'll do high to low, low to high. So all right, well there you go. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of the 6 land contracts that are available in the city right now, and a quick overview of the numbers and days on market times. So anyway, the wrapped line display that was on there, which, I mean, if you want some more data, or if you're looking for things that I'm not, maybe if you want owner information or something that's going to take up more space than just a single line, and you make it wrapped, what that's going to end up looking like, depending on how much data you have in there, is going to look like this. So, you can create a more multi-line display. If you're doing reports or anything like that for other people, or if you're reviewing it as a group, this might be useful. I don't use it all that much because I'd rather just have it be one line. I can go through it relatively quickly. So that's custom displays on REALCOMP. Next one I'll go over is custom exports, which is very similar scenario, except it's even more powerful in that it's actually exporting a file that you can import into other systems like Excel or Google spreadsheets, and it will run calculations on it like it's a spreadsheet. So we use that for a little bit more in-depth analysis. But talk to you guys soon.